For more information about the suspension, see TASB Legal Services, Article Texas Governor Suspends Certain Provisions of Open Meetings Act Due to Coronavirus. In accordance with those suspended rules, we certify the following. Notice of this meeting has been posted online for at least 72 hours. Although members of the board are not gathered in a central physical location, we do have a quorum in attendance at this meeting by video conference or telephone call. We are meeting by use of YouTube live stream software application, which allows two-way communication for members of the public. As we would at any in-person meeting, members of the public who have followed the instructions on the meeting notice to speak during the public comment portion will be 15 minutes prior to the meeting start, and your comment will be read at the meeting. If the speaker submitted written comments in advance, the board will read the comments into record before or during the board's consideration of that item. If you would like to provide comment at a future meeting conducted by video conference or telephone call, please follow instructions on the meeting notice. All other meeting procedures will adhere to board-adopted procedures to the extent practicable. An audio recording of this meeting is being made and will be available to the public at a later date. This software application allows for unlimited number of people to view and interact at a time. We apologize in advance for any unforeseeable difficulties and ask for your patience as we navigate unprecedented conditions. If you have any questions, please see the suspended laws and call the Office of the Attorney General at 888-672-6787 or by email toma@oag.texas.gov. At this time, we would like to have a roll call vote of the board members who are present. Ms. King? Present. Please turn on your microphone.
Present.
Thank you. Ms. Eaton?
Present.
Ms. Perez?
Present.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Jennifer Rodriguez, present.
Mr. Diaz?
Rafa Diaz, present.
Ms. Canoyer?
Suzanne Canoyer, present.
And we do have a full quorum, thank you. And to my left is the Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Jeanette Ball.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon.
Thank you. At this time, we will continue with item 3. Item 2, acknowledgement of visitors and citizens to be heard, and we do not have any. We will move on to item 3, discussion and consideration of action items, and we will do the fiscal year 2021 budget preparation first.
And I'm going to go ahead and ask Mr. Atkins to start his presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Atkins.
Good afternoon, Madam President, Dr. Ball, and Board.
Good afternoon.
So it's actually past time to start our budget workshop. But the month of March was spent responding to COVID-19. So we've got to get back on it. And so we're going to kind of look at our modified budget steps timeline. Then we'll look at where we are with our current budget year. Then we'll look at kind of where we're proposing to go with the budget for next year. And then we'll talk about some concerns about next biennium. So this is kind of, we were going along really pretty good through February, and then March hit, and then work on the budget really kind of stopped for a while. Mid-April, we started having discussions with other districts about what they were going to use to budget for and the concerns that they had. Last Thursday, we did receive late our 85% values from Bexar County. And so we'll use those to revise our revenue estimate going forward. And then in May, we'll finalize our revenue estimates. We'll finalize payroll based on staffing models and outcomes of budget workshops. We'll send out campus and department budgets. We will have another board budget update on the 14th at the regular meeting. In June, we will have another budget workshop with the board. We'll finalize the budget, hold the hearing on the budget, and adopt the budget based on estimated values and an estimated Tier 1 tax rate. In July, we're supposed to receive certified values from the appraisal district. Typically, we receive 95% certified values. This year, they don't know if they'll get there because of the amount of protest. It may be a 90% value certification. In August 7th, TEA said they will provide us our Tier 1 tax rate because they're calculating that this year, and they'll set it. Then we'll have to hold a hearing on the tax rate and adopt a tax rate. And we should be off for the 2021 school year.
Excuse me, Mr. Atkins, would
Yes,
you
ma'am.
give that date again? Are we to receive the tax rate from TEA August the
The 7th, we should
7th? Okay.
we should receive certified values from Bexar County July 30th.
Mm-hmm.
And then TEA has committed to turning that around in a week.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Oh, the workshop, right now, it's probably the regular board meeting.
Okay.
We would just give an update at the regular board meeting because right now we have proposing to adopt the budget on June 25th, which I think is the last Thursday in June. Oh, the 14th is the meeting this month in May. Yes, ma'am. So,
May the 14th will be another budget workshop.
yes, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Okay. So looking at where we are this year, general fund wise, on the left, the column is what we have currently in our budget. And on the right, this is where we're at year to date. And you can see, luckily, we've collected the majority of our taxes. I don't know how many more of those we'll collect. Of course, there's some other local stuff that we're not going to collect anything, athletic revenue, interest income, some of those things just aren't going to go on. The state, we're on a Tier 2, according to the state payment plan. And so how that works is during the months of September, October, and November, we receive about 40% of our annual allotment. And then we don't receive another payment until April. And in April, we get like 5.5%, and then the rest of it trickles in through August. And then if there's any settle up, it comes in September. So we should probably see of that 46 million, we'll probably have another 42 million that's going to come in. Federal revenue, that's pretty much going to be it. We got our SHARs in, and so there will be a little bit, but not a whole lot more come in on that. You know, one of the things, anytime there's a crisis or something that changes, there's always some good that comes of it. We always learn how to do things a little different, like go to meetings on Zoom and some of that stuff. But for us, remember, we were in a deficit budget. Because we don't have any overtime right now, we don't have tutoring going on, we don't have programs going on after schools, so our salary cost is going down this year. So it's not going to be as much as we thought. Our contracted services is going to go down because that's where our utilities are. So again, not estimating that that will go up much. Supplies will go down again because we didn't order supplies for the last quarter of the year in summer school. Miscellaneous travel is pretty much done because we canceled all of our trainings. The debt has been paid, and the capital expenditures are mainly the remaining HAIL projects that we finished up this year. And so budget-wise, we're running about $1 million net. The inflows, by the way, is the maintenance tax note we did in the fall, and that just adds to the revenue. So we have about a net of $1 million in the budget, and right now we're sitting about $12 million to the good, but we have about 3 more payrolls to run and a few more bills to pay. When we look at child nutrition, this is the budget that's actually going to probably take the biggest hit to this. They are a reimbursement program, and as you can see on the revenue side, the majority of their revenue comes from the federal government through the reimbursement, the National School Lunch and the National Breakfast Program. Since we are not serving near the number of meals that we were prior to COVID, we will definitely take a hit there, substantial hit in the federal reimbursement. But we're still making all of our salary payments. So we had an estimated salary of $6.3 million. I think we're going to be right there, if not a little over, just depending on the feeding cost. The contracted services, again, they'll have some utilities to pay. Supplies will be reduced because we're only ordering what we need to do the feeding we're doing now. And then miscellaneous travel and capital are just minor things that they replace some equipment and stuff every year. As you can see in the budget right now, they were about $400,000 in the hole to begin with. And that's about where we are currently, and I don't expect us to get out of the hole in that program. Debt service, again, we have made up all of our debt payments, and we're running a little bit in the hole, about $100,000. That's mainly because of the refunding we did, and we paid some additional down to pay that debt down. So one of the big concerns that we have going into next year and the next biennium is the number of people that are unemployed, the number of businesses that are going to be closed. Are people going to be able to pay their taxes? Our at-risk population and eco-dis population is going to increase dramatically. Can the state afford to continue to fund House Bill 3? And so just looking at this, the beginning of the year, there wasn't a week that had more than $500,000 claims in the United States for unemployment. And so for the last 4 or 5 weeks, probably longer than that now, they've been up around 4 to 5 million a week. And I don't even think they're processing them all because they don't have the staff to process them. So probably the largest unemployment we will see since the Depression is what some people are saying. And so I think it's going to be drastic when we come back in the biennium for the state to try and deal with that as their revenues drop. So when we talk about our taxable value, about the last 4 or 5 years, we've had about an 8.4% average increase. And the housing industry was already kind of slowing down a little bit before this happened, not a whole lot, but I estimated a 5% value increase, taking us to about $11 billion when it's finalized. We got our estimate late last Thursday after this was sent out. We are going to be real close to this, probably within $100 million of it, if their estimates of loss through the protest come to pass. So I think we're going to be pretty close on the taxable value there. Collections, this is one that really concerns me. We typically budget 98%. We've collected 199. This year, I'm thinking we're going to drop to about 96% just because people can't go in and pay their taxes. They have to send it by mail. It's a little more difficult. And I think people are going to be struggling to pay other things, and taxes will fall by the side. Next year, I don't know what to guess. I put it at 95%. I hope we collect 95% of our taxes, because this one has a direct impact on our M&O and INS budget, because the state formula estimates we're going to collect 100% of our taxes. So anything we don't collect, we have to make up the difference. There's also House Bill 3 did a 2.5% limitation on value growth. And this is kind of the graph we saw back in February when we were talking about maybe doing a defeasance resolution. And so the more our values go up on the M&O side, the tax rate drops, and somewhat on the INS side too. But there's a formula behind how the tax rate drops, so that we raise roughly the same amount of dollars we would at a different tax rate as we would at 2.5%, 4%, because that's what the state budgeted, but 2.5% is the actual estimate. And so I tried to do a deal to understand that for me. And so if we had a $100,000 value house in 2019, and it increased 4%, it would be worth $104,000. And we already know the state says that at 4%, because that's what their budget is based upon, 4% value growth, that the tax rate would be 0.9664, and that would raise about $1,005. Well, if we have a 5%, which I think roughly is where we're going to be, our tax rate would be 0.9578, and we would raise $1,005. And it goes up a little bit as you go up the scale, but not much. And so that's the goal. It was to help taxpayers keep that growth. So if property was going up really fast, they were paying roughly the same amount as other people in the state. And the other thing House Bill 3 says is that all M&O, Tier 1 M&O tax rates have to be within 10% of each other. And so that's why the state's actually going to calculate them, because you could have somebody that's a very fast growth. They could have an 80-cent tax rate, and somebody over here is stuck at 9664, and the law says no more than a 10% variance. So TEA will make sure that meets. Enrollment trends. This one is kind of all over the place. Again, we've been kind of dropping for the last 3 years. We had a really big jump this year, really helped us budget-wise. Excuse me. I really think going forward, there's going to be a group of parents that choose not to send their students back to a school full of children. I think that most of the districts believe that in Bexar County, that after they homeschool them for a couple months, they may decide that they can homeschool them. And right now, we're operating under a waiver, so we still get ADA funding on those. If TEA does not extend that waiver, then potentially we would not get funding for those. And so if that's the case, between the charters that are coming in and the potential that some parents are just not going to do that, we're predicting a 3% downturn in revenue, in ADA.
Mr. Atkins, I got to interrupt you. Ms.
Sure,
Eden
you
has a
bet.
question.
Oh, I am, sorry, ma'am.
Well, it's kind of loud. I'm sorry. My question is, when you all factored the drop in under the assumption that, safe assumption at that there would be a lot of parents that would want to continue to homeschool, did they consider that they won't, if they choose to do that, the type of help that they're presently receiving? Did I do something wrong? Can y'all hear me? Okay. The type of help that they're presently receiving from the staff and the teachers, through the Zoom and all that, that won't be available then once school starts. So in order for them to actually do homeschool, they would then have to go and join homeschool groups and gather up all the materials and do all that. I don't think it's gonna be as many as you think.
I hope I'm wrong. I really do.
I'm
I don't mind being wrong
because
when it
I know
comes to
some
this.
people wanna sell their kids right now, you know?
There
Just
is
put 'em
that
on the
group too.
open
Yes,
mar-
ma'am.
put 'em
There is
on
that
the
group
open
too.
market, you know?
But Ms. Eaton is correct. Not only that part, but there's a lot of students that also participate in various things. That whether it's choir, the fine arts, athletics, STEM, robotics, all those things. So we are hoping to be wrong and that the parents want to come back, but we also know that there's still some fear with that.
And you're right, Dr. Ball and sir. And I understand that, because then the other side of that also is being that this is so unprecedented and it just hit us right, you know, I mean, we just never came back after spring break. And this is more for our parents that may be listening. Please consider that we really need your kids back so that we can at least get them back on track. We need to be able to get them in the classroom to get them back on track and figure out where they are. So for parents to have to come up with that and homeschool after they learn how to do it from the groups that participate in it, that's a lot to undertake. So I'm going to pray that, you know, this number kind of reverses and we go on up, because the teachers are excited, they're ready, they want their babies back, you know, and I want to see them back.
And I think another point to consider is that a lot of employers are now expecting their employees to return to work. And so I know, many of my colleagues who, the courthouse is kind of technically closed, and so many who have children are homeschooling their children, but the courthouse is going to reopen, and there's going to be expectation that you're going to be standing in front of the bench, in front of the judge in real time. And so those, many will have no option but to return their children to the classroom, because they need to return to their own jobs to be able to pay that property tax bill that has come in the mail, that is still going to come from Mr. Uresti.
Yes, ma'am.
And so you have to, the whole economics plays into this as well.
Totally agree. And like I said, that's why we think there's a small group. I don't think it's going to be mass, but I think there's a small group. I know in our call with the other districts last week, some of them are seeing up to 7% of students they haven't had contact with when this started. And so they're kind of looking at that and monitoring that. Any other questions on ADA or enrollment? Okay. So here's what our revenue estimates look like. And so the good thing with going to current year values under House Bill 3 is values have almost no impact on our M&O side. Their impact now becomes on the INS side only, because the state makes up the difference under the House Bill 3 when we look at revenue on the M&O side. And so if we had no decrease, if we had the exact same students that we had last year with a 5% value increase, we would be having about $194 million in taxes and state and local revenue on that side, and about $39.5 on the INS. And you can see the INS stays the same because the value increase is the same. For every 1% in decrease of ADA, we lose about $2 million. And so you can see 1% is 192, 3% is 188, 5% is 184. And so that's kind of how it comes out in the formula. So if we had a 3% increase, we would be losing about $6 million from where we would if we had no ADA increase. So now we're going to kind of talk about where I think we're going to end up with the current year. I have some estimates in there, and what the budget looks like using these assumptions. So an average daily attendance of almost 21,000, 3% enrollment drop, estimated taxable value of 11 billion. It's a 5% increase. A tax collection rate of 95. Like I said, that's usually 98. And we collect usually 99 or 100.
Hey, Bill, quick question.
Go right ahead, Mr. Diaz. That was Mr. Diaz that
Yes.
has a question.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Bill, just to frame it, what was the tax collection like in 08, 09? Do you recall? Yeah.
08, 09, it was probably, I would have to go back and look, but I would imagine it was better than what we're projecting, just because in 08, 09, we didn't have near the disruption in sales tax and stuff like that. I don't think you had near the unemployment. We had the oil boom that kicked in about that time that
Okay.
really kind of shielded Texas. I can go back and look, but I'm going to say that our tax collections were probably around 98, 97%.
Okay. So I guess the point is that there are multiple variables that are gonna
Yes, sir.
offset that anyways.
Yes, sir.
Right? Okay.
Oil
Cool.
being a huge one.
All right, appreciate you.
This is estimating that we're going to take the fifth Tier 2 penny. That's worth about $2.7 million to us that we talked about in February. An M&O tax rate of 0.9578, an INS tax rate of 0.3704, so our total tax rate of 1.32. We believe that the state will not prorate next year. We believe that they will, to cover their shortfall, hopefully do some accounting maneuvers, moving the August payment to September, or some other things like that, maybe using a little bit of the Economic Stabilization Fund. But what we're hoping is that there's no proration next year. No salary increase. We already started with the hiring freeze except for necessary positions. And a freeze on the proposed Wagner feeder pattern incentive. Yes, ma'am.
I do not know what that Wagner feeder pattern incentive is anymore. Can you please go back over that?
Yes, ma'am. Last year, when we adopted the compensation plan, we put in that in the 2021 school year, we would start paying an incentive to teachers and aides in the schools that fed into Wagner High School, since that was our highest ECODIS. And it was also, when we looked at deals, it's where our teachers' turnover is the most. And so I think it was $1,000 for teachers and 25 cents an hour for aides is what it was proposed to be. But due to the situation we're in, recommendation is that we maybe freeze that until we see how it's going to work out in the next biennium.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So when we look at general fund, now these are where I think we're going to end up when it comes to the current year, 1920. I think we're going to end up with about $213 million in revenue. And again, we have some savings on our expenditure side, both in the payroll and some of the other categories. So I think we're going to be about $208 million in expenditures. So I think we're going to end up with about $4.5 million to the good. And so that's one of the good things. When we look at the 2021 budget and we start looking at revenue, based on the assumptions, I think we're going to end up with about $204 million in revenue and about $208 million in expenditures, and end up with about a negative $3.8 million budget. And so we have a fund balance. At the end of this year, if we put the 4.6 in, it would be $67 million starting next fiscal year. And so if we took out the 3.8, we would end up with about $63 million, which is about almost $1 million more than we have in there right now. So that's kind of what the general fund looks like. Child nutrition, like I said, this is the one that concerns me the most. I think we're going to end up with about $12 million in revenue and about $14.3 million in expenditures, with a loss of about $2.2 million. And they have a fund balance of about $2.6 million right now. So next year, I think working with Ms. Daniels and Mr. Gibbs, we can get very close to a balanced budget through some tight work there. But they would have a very, very small fund balance starting off, probably about $400,000 the year. And so if they exceed that fund balance, then general fund has to pick up the difference. So this can directly impact general fund if we don't have fund balance in child nutrition to run there. Debt service, again, with the 5% increase, we will be good at debt service. Like I said, we're going to take a little bit out of fund balance this year, but we knew that with the refunding. Next year, I think we'll put it back. And so I think it'll stay a very stable fund moving forward for next year. So we also talked about some potential cost savings, and some of these were the same ones we had last year. And so, you know, we have some admin positions that we're talking about maybe not hiring from the outside and moving people around. That could save us about $350,000. An incentive for retirement. I know some districts are talking about that. I don't know if a lot of people will take that. I think people are really concerned and scared and probably want their job for a while. Providing language other than English through Edgenuity. Reduce all non-instructional stipends by 10%. Reduce board travel. No senior staff in-district travel reimbursement. And then the Wagner feeder pattern would have cost us about $650,000 this year, and so if we postpone that, we get that. We talked about some other things the other day in senior staff, and so we will continue to add to this, trying to help offset that deficit.
And Madam President, I would just like to remind everybody that these are proposals. These, by no means are we saying that this is what we're going to do. And I know that a lot of times when people see this and hear this, they right away think that this is it. This isn't it. This is our brainstorming. This is the opportunity for us to hear from the board and also our board members online of something that you would say, you know what, Dr. Ball, I also want you to consider this, or Dr. Ball, take that off the table because we would never even agree to that. So these are some of the things that for weeks now we've been talking about the possibility of coming up. We are concerned for the future years to come. So this isn't just about next year, but also about what would our budget look like, because starting next January, of course, it'll be a legislative session, so who knows what could happen. And there's just a lot of speculation right now, and the speculation that's out there is not positive. The board.
Can I speak,
Oh,
please?
sorry, go ahead.
While we're talking about this, one of the concerns I have on these potential cost savings is the postponing the Wagner feeder pattern incentive. I'm always reluctant to take away something that we promised to our employees. So I have concerns about that particular item.
Thank you. We will definitely look at that, and we can bring back different types of scenarios and information for the next board meeting. Would there be other questions or other items you would like for us to do some calculations on that could be cost savings? We, of course, will continue to bring some more at the May 14th board meeting.
For me, I don't have anything in mind, but now that I've been reminded of what that Wagner feeder pattern is. that is a concern. That would be the major concern.
Okay. So when we start talking about future years, that's where I think we really have a big concern. We know the legislature passed House Bill 3 last year. There was some concern whether they could even continue to fund it before this happened. And so right now the unemployment in Texas is at 7.2%. I think in January it was around 2%. The state sales tax and fees make up the majority of the state revenue, and most stores have been closed for 2 months now and are probably not going to open up fully till who knows when. The 11-12 biennium state cut funding to education by $5 billion. I think the call we had yesterday with the superintendents is they're hearing the numbers between 5 and 20 billion, with the number being closer to 10 to 20 billion. Education in the state is a $66 billion part of the budget. It and Health and Human Services are the largest portion, and I would imagine there's going to be a lot of emphasis on Health and Human Services in the next biennium. The oil industry in Texas, like I said, in 2009, the fracking started, and it really mitigated a lot of the issues that other states had during that financial crisis. We definitely do not have that now. I mean, oil is at an all-time low, and there's very little, there's no job growth. Jobs are being laid off all the time there. In the 11-12 biennium program funds are cut, but the program to provide the service was not. And so I have some real concerns about will they continue to fund the early childhood allotment, which is what's funding the other half of our full-day pre-K. I don't see the teacher incentive allotment even ever coming into being. I just think, I don't know whether they will be able to fund state comp because they increased it so much under House Bill 3, and that number is going to be the one that grows the most in our population, our demographics. I don't know if they will be able to fund it at the current level. They may have to change the factors there on each of the tiers. The comptroller is supposed to give an estimate on the revenue in July, and then he'll give another one right before the legislature starts their work. And he is estimating that it's not going to be a good year, and that they're already telling state agencies to start making cuts. And so I think it's going to be a really tough next couple of years. 2009, it was about a 2 or 3 year period. We did get a lot of stabilization funding through the federal government. That tends to come with many strings attached and limits the way you can use it. The CARES Act, I think TEA is supposed to get it in 3 weeks or something, and then they're going to kind of decide how they're going to disperse that to the districts. FEMA, almost nothing we're doing is going to be covered by FEMA because they're mainly concerned with those that are actually dealing with the medical side of the issue. So almost no reimbursement from FEMA. And so we have real concerns that next year we might have a little bit of a deficit, but moving forward, it could really be tough. I think in 2010-11, I saw somewhere that 120,000 teaching jobs were cut over that biennium to try and deal with the $5.5 billion cut in funding. And with that, I wish I had a happy note to end on. I apologize. Any questions? Anything that y'all would like us to work on or see between now and the 14th? Yes, ma'am.
I know you probably don't think this is a strange one, but can I just get an idea of how much we saved on fuel during this time
Yes, ma'am.
for the 14th? And you said that nothing that we have been doing falls under FEMA, so they would not in any way assist us with all the meals that we've been providing for the community and.
No, ma'am, I was on a webinar last Friday with FEMA, and basically they said the distance learning would fall under the education department, and I guess there's supposed to be some kind of a grant, little grant that they're putting out this month for some of that. The food service costs fall under the agriculture department, not FEMA. As of now, the agriculture department has not made any move to reimburse us for the meals that we're not serving, you know. They did provide, they are providing a little bit of a bump in the reimbursement rate to try and help districts deal with some of the premium pay. But, I mean, we were serving 18,000 meals a day, and now I think we're serving 5. And we're paying all the staff the same. So they said that they wouldn't cover that. All of the premium pay they would not cover unless we had a policy in place prior to the event happening. And we did not. And so we're bringing that, I think, to the board on the 14th, but it won't help us. The one thing they said that they may cover is additional cost in the cleaning and preparing of the facilities when we start for
That was
school
my next question.
the next year.
That was actually my next question. I had two. One, I'm sorry, y'all, for hogging this, but that was one question about cleaning the facilities. But the other one was, is there any chance that we could get some credit or money back for all the tablets and things that we had to buy to just prepare to be able to do the distance learning, online learning with the kids?
Well, that's where they said that was the education department, and that
goodness.
I guess Ms. DeVos is going to have some type of a grant that she rolls out for helping with that. But it won't be enough to cover anything much by the time you split it out. That we've sent out? Yes, yes.
Is there anyone else? Go right ahead.
So for the PK3, that's still going to be in effect for next year. So nothing has changed with that.
No, that'll definitely be in effect, and we're hoping that that's going to help us bring in lots of students also.
Okay, nice. Okay.
And with that said, have you all started working on ways to increase the bandwidth of that channel of students in order for us to offset the losses that we're going to be experiencing?
Can
I
you
remember Mayor Nuremberg had that question also, having to do with the amount of bandwidth. Do we have enough bandwidth to be able to service? Well, Rafa, are you talking about for those that stay home and continue with distance learning?
So let me clarify. So the way that I'm looking at the PK3 program is a channel for us to recruit, right, more students into the district, and then obviously to retain them along their academic journey. So because we are desperately needing a diversified pipeline of students into the district, have we been ramping up efforts to amplify that strategy? And then do we have enough actual professional bandwidth to then serve that population of students that we're hoping to attract to the district? That might have been a no.
Right. So one of the things that we are doing that's different for our district is the online registration. So I think that our online registration, something that Judson has not done before, will help us out. with this. We had planned a whole month of in-person registration, so we are in the process of strategizing how we're going to help in regards to making sure that parents that need the support to register their child still have that support, because right now all we have is the online registration. So we're going to make sure that we're doing our due diligence and making sure people find out about it. As soon as we can start to go out a little bit more and places open up, our plan was to put out posters, to tell retails and all those things. So right now, through our social media campaigns is what we're doing to tell individuals about it.
Yeah, that's great. Social media is, perfect right now because everybody's glued to that. So anything, and I know, ma'am, you've discussed this and you've laid plans out, anything that we can do to increase the amount of marketing on, new media, social media, in order to reach those folks, and then obviously tell the story of, the measures that are being taken to ensure that we have a safe, nurturing, learning environment for those youngest of scholars is going to be key for that. So thanks for that.
Absolutely.
And
Maybe-
on the professional side, we are hiring 31 teaching positions to support that, and about 19 aid positions, because Head Start is going to hire the other 12 positions for their classrooms.
Maybe we can, I keep forgetting about this. The schools that we are currently utilizing to provide meals, I know that's a drive-by situation, which it's great. It helps to protect our staff and the families that are coming by. Would it be possible to maybe, if a family does not have the ability to get online, if in the library we maybe set up 2 or 3 stations far enough apart, and they have to call and make an appointment to come up to the school and be allowed to go in there and get on a computer and register their
Absolutely.
student, and that way, we can spread it out far enough that they can be sanitized in between, so the next person doesn't have to be concerned about, if it's, okay. And
Absolutely. I think
something like that.
that's
And that
a-
way we can control,
Coming and going.
that's about 3 schools,
Oh, no, we have our feeding site at, is it 6 or 8 campuses?
At
Well,
least 8.
not that many for registration though.
Right.
But you see what I'm saying?
Yes, we
So
could
that way
do the feeder pattern, so there's one in every area.
There we go.
Mhm.
There you go, Dr.
Absolutely.
Ball.
Yes.
And then that way, for those families that don't have the ability to get online, they can, like I said, call and make an appointment.
Right.
And, we'll know who's coming, and that way, if something happens, we can give feedback for the tracers
Right.
that work this.
So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put like a little postcard in their sack, so they know that that's available. And then if they can't do it on their own, with the time and date of the sites that will be open, so they could go in and use one of our labs or the cafeteria with mobiles set out, so we could spread them out as much as possible. So yes. I'm trying to remember the date. Our online just is becoming available. I think it's May 11th. May 11th. So that's why you haven't seen all this yet, because we wanted to make sure that we have the computer part of it working perfectly, so we can register our students online.
Do we have, still have the buses that are delivering the meals in a couple of elementary school neighborhoods?
Yes, ma'am, we have 2.
Yeah.
The program has grown so much at Hartman that it will no longer, I think it's after this week, no longer be a bus, but they will actually be going to the campus because that area has grown a lot of interest.
I was thinking that if we still have those buses driving around the neighborhoods, maybe we could put like marketing material on the outside of the buses to advertise the pre-K3 program, like signage to tell them to sign up, in addition to the cards they might get in their lunches, which is a good idea as well.
That's a great idea. We'll make sure that we start to put this on our marquee, and then also make those vinyl plastic posters to hang on the fence. So I think that our print shop was already opened, was it this Monday? Today. Today, it's open today. So they have been printing the graduation handbooks as a keepsake for all our seniors, and they were also printing some other CNI material, so we'll get that printed also.
And then just one last quick thought, dovetailing off of Mrs. Rodriguez's comment there. So another thing that I think, so since we have a captive audience, so to speak, is I don't know what the partnerships in the past have been, but we have obviously several HEBs and other grocers in the district, and especially now, I think everybody's sensitive to the need for partnership in order to ensure that we have a community that's still in touch and being taken care of. So maybe engaging in conversations to see if we can get information into the actual stores or storefronts um, would also be critical because everybody's going to be going to those places in some form or fashion, right? So just hitting up those high traffic areas of natural congregation would be great.
Yes, absolutely. Those places that get a lot of foot traffic, we'll make sure we target them. Madam
No,
President, that's
thank
all
you.
that we have for this agenda.
Okay, there is anyone else have any further comments? At this time, we will, at 2:55, we are going into closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074, discussing personnel, the personnel report, and updates including new hires, resignations, and administrative appointments, principals. Thank you, Mr. Atkins, for your budget presentation. We look forward to in another week, at the 14th. Okay. Again, it is 2:56. We go into closed session.
Yep,
Yes.
I don't have much. Ma'am, you can just read it to us. We'll be fine.
Mic check, mic
Test,
check,
test, test, test.
mic check.
Read it and describe the whole thing.
You can, you can just read name by name. Also, Betty, see, Mike has already turned off his. We need those.
Do I need to turn, is that make it any better? I'm gonna just talk a lot louder.
The time now is 3:06 p.m. We are going back into open session. Consider and take possible action regarding personnel, the personnel report, and updates including new hires, resignations, and administrative appointments. Is there a motion?
Yes, Madam President, I move that we approve the appointment of Erica Garza as the principal of Coronado Village Elementary School, Cynthia Keeler as the principal of Escondido Elementary School, and Mr. Shannon George as principal of Olympia Elementary School.
Congratulations.
Is there a second?
We have to vote.
And
Don't we have to vote?
I
we
second.
do
I
need to
second.
vote.
This is Ms. Eaton. I second that motion.
We needed a second. The motion has been
Wait,
moved,
wait.
made, and seconded. And now
Excuse
with a
me.
roll call vote. Yes, ma'am. Point of order?
Excuse me. The motion needs to be amended to include the other approvals of everyone else resigning and hiring.
Well, the item that I'm seeing on the agenda, it says 1 principals, and so my motion was exclusively for 6A1.
The entire personnel report. Yes, ma'am. Is that okay for you, Ms. Canoyer?
Yes, I just want to make sure we're legal.
Okay, yes, very good. Thank you. Again, the motion has been made and seconded, and we'll take a roll call vote. I'll start with Ms. Canoyer. Yes or no?
Suzanne Canoyer, yes.
Ms. Jennifer Rodriguez? Yes or no?
Jennifer Rodriguez, yes.
Mr. Rafa Diaz, yes or no?
Rafa Diaz, yes.
Ms. King, yes or no?
Shatanya King, yes.
Ms. Eaton, yes or no?
Deborah Eaton, yes.
Ms. Perez, yes or no?
Yes.
I'm Renee Pichelle. My vote is yes. This vote passes unanimously. And now, a formal, correct, proper congratulations. Can you turn and face the monitor there? Right over there? Yes. Congratulations, all of you.
It is so hard truly not to hug y'all.
It is.
And just tell you how proud I am of y'all joining our team in this different capacity. I am super happy for y'all. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And please know that we will assist you in anything at all that you need. We'd love to come over to your schools. Thank you.
Yes.
Right.
Congratulations.
At this time, the meeting is adjourned at 3:10 p.m.